first, and I'm just going to talk through for 20, 30 minutes what some of the steps are. And they seem brutally simple because they are, but they're really hard. Step one, you have to actually be able to write down on a piece of paper, and I'm going to probably encourage you to try this. The book has lots of exercises on how to do this. Can you write down your strengths and your weaknesses? Now, most people say, yeah, I can do that. And normally the reason I know this, I meet with ridiculous number of people every year one-on-one, CEOs all the way down to college students. And it's unusual for me to meet somebody who can accurately write down their weaknesses. I say to them, tell me what your strengths and weaknesses are. When we get to the weaknesses, well, I'm very impatient, doesn't suffer fools gladly, knock it off. Tell me the truth. What are your weaknesses? I know you got them. What are they? Well, tell me what you heard in your last review. Well, they said just keep doing what you're doing. Okay. Did you get paid at the top of your peer group? Well, I don't think so. Well, how'd they explain that? They didn't. Okay. So the point of this is you get in your year-end review and you're like, and I'm the same way, I'm like thinking, oh my God, I hope this goes well. And oh my God, hope I hear anything that's going to make me feel terrible. And you get the heck out of there and it's over. And what I'm saying to you is you've got to own being able to find out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And it's not so easy. But my experience is extremely high percentage of the time, if you know what your weaknesses are, you're almost always going to improve. My experience is, why don't people improve? Why have I had people in their careers where I think, God, this person's got all the skills, what's the problem? They're not willing to recognize, I have this weakness. The second you do, you'll either decide it's not realistic to improve on it. Let's say you've got to be, you're quantitatively weak. Could be you're just quantitatively weak. Fine, pick something else. But can you write down your weaknesses and learn how to deal with it? I'm not saying you have to improve on every weakness, but you have to have a strategy for how to deal with it. Okay, so that's point one. Can you write it down? Now here's why this is complicated. It has to be relative, it has to be skill-based. Okay? Not popular is not a strength or weakness. It's got to be skill. Analytical skills, written skills, speaking skills, domain expertise. I've got in the book 25 different skills that you could list and put next to each one a plus, a minus, or a neutral. It's got to be skill-based, number one. Number two, it has to be relative to a job, to a task. Here, let me give you an example. I am a very fast runner. I've always been a fast runner. That's fantastic. That's a strength. Except, if the job is to be an Olympic sprinter, it's not a strength anymore. Again, versus a peer group that's superb at that job, it's now a weakness. In fact, I couldn't even bother to try out. They wouldn't even let me try out. I'm so slow. And same with a job. You need to look at the job you're in or the one you aspire to, especially the one you aspire to, and can you write down the 2 or 3 skill weaknesses that you have relative to that job. Okay, try that. Now second, here's the other reason this is so darn hard. In my experience, you can't do this alone. You'd love to think, okay, I could do this by myself. My experience is no, and here's why. All of you and all of us, me included, have blind spots, okay? In that you don't see yourself clearly. So you may have a weakness that you're not even aware of. But I can tell you for darn sure, if I ask that question to all 5 or 10 people that work with you every day, and I said, tell me the strengths and weaknesses of so-and-so relative to the job they're in, they could give them to me fast. They know your weaknesses, they don't even have to think about it. The only person that may not know is you. Okay? Now how's that possible? Why wouldn't they just tell you? Because they don't want to upset you or offend you. They want to be on good terms with you. Or you may send off a vibe that you don't want to know. Okay, so my experience is you've got to seek coaching from people who observe you as to what they observe your weaknesses are and your strengths. But the problem is they're not going to tell you unless you ask. You have to give them permission. And you have to be convincing that you really want to hear it. Because the most difficult weaknesses you have, they may not want to tell you. Here's a good one I used to struggle with in coaching people. You say different things to different people under